Hi everyone, I am recording another video about helping you navigate the anxiety possibly around, what's going on in the world as of late. So I spoke in a previous video about, two things that were running in most of my sessions this week, and it was around the feelings of rejection or feelings of not being liked, and people having this feeling of what is wrong with me. And and I spoke about like likability and just this rising sense of people being uncomfortable with the idea of people not liking them, or people rejecting them, or them feeling like they're not good enough. And so I've done a lot of work with clients this week around, this notion of not being liked, or hurting someone else, or like what did they do wrong. That was there. The other big theme has been, as of late in a lot of sessions, has been the anxiety around what's going on politically, right? And people are having a lot of anxiety around the uncertainty of what things or how things are going to impact their life, right? And so my job is to hold the space for people to unpack their fears and unpack their anxiety and unpack the uncertainty. And here's the thing that I always try to convey to my clients, that I am trying to hopefully convey to you, that anxiety, the way that I see anxiety from a theoretical framework, is fear of the future, right? It's fear of an uncertain future. And oftentimes what I see in terms of anxiety when I look at that theoretical framework, is that people are, take current information that they have or past experiences, and they project into the future, what something's going to look like in the future, and what they see in the future is scary, right? So forget even like a level of uncertainty, which as human beings, we don't like uncertainty. Let's just be clear. As human beings, we like predictability. We like sort of knowing things. We like guarantees, if you will. As human beings, I fully recognize that as humans, we like certainty. We don't like change. We don't like uncertainty, right? So if I already know going into, a session with a client, that there is an aspect of anxiety that is showing up, I am listening for, what are your fears about the future? And often the fears about the future are just, like it's not even uncertainty, it's uncertainty of a negative outcome. Because here's a difference, right? If I said to you that in 3 months you're going to Hawaii, right? Like, no, there is uncertainty there, right? You don't know like what your flight's going to look like. You don't know where you're going to stay. You don't know, but there's excitement, right? Because there is an expectation that the trip to Hawaii is going to be great. You have kind of in your mind already decided that the trip is going to be great. And even if I present to you like, well, how are you going to get there? And what if there's flight delays and and your hotel? Most people, like, because they have decided in their mind that like something is going to be positive, they're just like, psh, they're like, it's good. Like there's uncertainty there, but it's going to be fine. It's going to be great. It's Hawaii. Like it's warm. It's such and such. It's da 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 da, right? But when there's a sense of a negative outcome, then we kind of go off the rails. What if and what if this doesn't happen, and then what, and then how is this going to affect me, and then and I hold the space, right? I always say to my clients that we live from an emotional standpoint, because I could say to you till we're blue in the face, I could give you all of the reasons, the rationales, all of the things that like this doesn't make sense, why this thing is not going to happen. I don't care about the rationalization, because we live in a state of emotion, right? We live in the space of feeling our feelings and feeling our emotions. And so I have to hold the space for the emotions to come through. And I want those emotions to come through, not so that you can hear yourself kind of navigate those things, but it's just like, just giving it a space to just come to fruition and give it oxygen, so that it's like all the stuff that you were holding in your mind, it's now I'm holding it, and let's take a look at it, right? And so for people who are navigating the anxiety about, this current administration, and and there's going to be this turmoil, and I'm going to lose this, and I'm going to lose that, and what about my family, and what about this, and what about education, and what about my job, and like all of these things are very valid concerns, right? Because these things like have happened and will happen and are happening, right? But it's about helping a client walk through their greatest fears and then being able to say, those fears are valid. Have you navigated tougher situations before? And is there anything that you can do to navigate the uncertainty, right? Now, within like processing these concerns and these anxieties is also getting your nervous system regulated, right? Because again, if you're living from a space of emotion and fear and adrenaline and you're like preparing for you're preparing for fight, flight, freeze, you are like preparing for the worst case scenario. But hey, guess what? If I can help you learn how to regulate your nervous system, like it will diminish the emotional charge that is happening so that you have the time to bring your brain back online and try to identify some possible solutions. And that might not happen in the session. That might be like 4 or 5 sessions later. We might need to just sit with this state of fear and anxiety and the state of like, well, what if, what if, what if, what if? And my job is to hold that space, right? So I say this to you as to offer you some tips as to how to navigate your anxiety. One, it's understanding that it's fears of the future, and it's the uncertain fears of the future where there's going to be a negative consequence, right? Where there's going to be a negative outcome. So just sit with that, journal that, put that out there, the what if, and then what happens here, and then I say to the person, so just take that to the most like extreme version that you can, right? Like, I'm going to lose my job, and then I'm not going to be able to pay my bills, and then I'm going to, we're going to lose the house, and then we're going to have to, move back in with my parents, and then we're going to have to like live off of food stamps, and then my kids are not going to be able to go to a good school, and then they're going to end up like degenerates because like I couldn't keep them in a good school district, and we had to move into a bad neighborhood, and then they're getting beat up every day, and then they don't go to a good school, and then they're going to be like losers on my couch, and then what if I can't even provide for them? Like, just play all that out. Play all that out, because those fears are real for you. And as much as somebody, like who's close to you could be like, oh, well, just stop being extreme. Like, that's never going to happen. Like, really, you're going to be living, on the couch in like the inner city and like, not like, stop it. Those people are just like, you're being crazy and you're like not making sense. But for you, it's real. And so my job is to validate those feelings. But if you can't talk to me or you can't talk to a therapist, try to validate those feelings for yourself. It's okay that these fears are showing up. Okay, then it's about calming yourself down, right? And this is what I try to do with clients is that, I do a level of bilateral stimulation where it's just like, let's just go with it, go with it, go with it. And then this, and then that, and then this, and then that, and then this, and then that. And you're like, okay, right? Let it all come out. And I do some tapping, right? We do some EFT tapping. Just, just letting your body like express itself. And then when there's a level of exhale, right? And is there anything else? Now, again, this requires, I would hope, now I'm saying this as the therapist who's able to hold the space and co-regulate, right? Because my job is to just stay calm in the space of, your chaos. My job is to stay calm. But if you don't have another person, can you hold a space for yourself, right? Hold a space for yourself to be like, okay, is there anything else? No. Okay. Have there been times where you've navigated more difficult situations? And usually 99.9% of the time, yes, they've navigated a difficult situation. Whether it was losing a parent when they were a kid, their parent being homeless, whether it was, they were abused, whether it was they have lost a job before, whether they have a child with special needs, whether they are, a widower, whether it's they've like a death of a child, whether it's, like just like if you lived on this planet, you have navigated adversity and you're still here. Now, I will insert that awareness into you, right? But understanding that the fear is still there. But I will navigate that awareness of, remember that time you told me about this? And remember that time you told me about that? And how you navigated through that? Yeah, I have done hard things before. Yeah, for sure. Right? And you just hold the space for that person to come to these realizations. So hopefully you can come to these realizations for yourself. When have there been times when you have done hard things? Okay? And identify those things. Now, the flip side of that, the secondary part of that is like, I've done that before and I never want to do that again. I've done that. I've experienced the adversity and I wouldn't wish that adversity on my worst enemy. Understood. Like revisiting trauma, revisiting adversity is not fun. It's just not. So let's hold space for that, right? But the reality is that once we hold space for that and understand that it's not something that we would want to go through again, we have to then say to ourselves, but you have the mental bandwidth and the resources to do that because you've done it before. And if you don't, let's figure out how to arm you with the strength and the resilience so that if this bad thing comes to fruition. Now, again, understanding that we can plan for the worst, but then even when the worst case scenario shows up in our face, that it feels like it's still going to blindside us, right? Because yes, you can prepare until the real life happens, and then you're like, I wasn't prepared for this. And that's true too, right? But recognizing that if you can develop the resilience within yourself to know, I will be okay. That's then what we have to work on. Because if you say to me today, I don't think I will be okay, I don't have it, I don't know that I'll be okay, then our job is to get you to a place where you will be okay. So think about where you're like having these levels of anxiety, where you're like focusing on the future. Hold space for that anxiety. Ask yourself when you have been able to do hard things before, and just remind yourself that you can do hard things, and then ask yourself, what do you need to do to develop the level of resilience that if this negative thing should come to pass, that you are equipped mentally, whatever it is, emotionally, to deal with whatever future is now manifesting itself in the present. So I hope that this was helpful, and shoot me just a message about, are you struggling in some areas or you're having some anxiety? Let me hold the space for you, and I will see you in the next one. Bye, guys.